Public baths were everywhere in ancient Rome. They were an important part of the culture of the Republic and the Empire. Most people didn't have and couldn't afford the private bathrooms that are common today, but a complex recently unveiled at an excavation site in Pompeii didn't belong to most people. It probably belonged to someone wealthy. This is more like a spa than a simple place to rinse off. Historians say it was a complex with 3 rooms that could all be kept at different temperatures. One of the large tubs was likely filled with warm water, one was likely cold. There was a dressing room. There was space for dozens of people who could bathe in luxury and then go have a banquet. And all of it was both buried and preserved, like the rest of Pompeii, by the violent eruption of Mount Vesuvius in the year 79 AD. Hi, I'm Carl Azuz with the World from A to Z, your nonpartisan source for international events, and it makes our day to be part of yours. Next subject, firefighters in Los Angeles, California have made progress in blocking off 2 of the deadly and destructive wildfires we told you about recently. As we produced this show, officials said the Palisades fire was almost 70% contained, while the Eaton fire was more than 90% contained. Those percentages indicate the portions of the wildfires that have been fenced in, prevented from spreading further. Combined, authorities say the Palisades and Eaton fires had consumed an area almost the size of Washington, D.C., damaged or burned down almost 16,000 homes and buildings, and killed 28 people. There was a new problem yesterday in northern Los Angeles County, about 50 miles north of the city itself. What was named the Hughes Fire began. Just after 11 a.m. Wednesday, it covered an area of about 500 acres. 2 hours later, it had exploded in size to cover 5,000 acres. At that time, it was 0% contained, but the area affected, at least at first, was mostly mountainous and not densely populated. Humidity is low, and the Santa Ana winds continue to blow across the region, worsening the threat of these fires. People who lost their homes in the blazes that began earlier this month are trying to figure out their next steps.
I'll take this one.
All right, perfect.
Thank you.
Raven Maduro is one of the thousands of Angelinos trying to fill the void left behind by the deadly Los Angeles wildfires.
Everything outside just was disintegrated.
Maduro and her mother lived in Altadena, where the Eaton fire torched street after street.
I evacuated only with what I had, which was my car, and then eventually asked all my friends if we could stay in tents, and they dropped over tents, and we were sleeping in tents.
The daughter and mother able to find a hotel room after connecting with Victory Bible Church in Pasadena. Today, they're taking part in a relief hub, replacing essential items and clothing. A free legal clinic also taking place, helping families navigate insurance and other legal concerns.
So much compassion.
Yes.
During this time.
The church also trying to meet immediate financial needs of families, saying a donor wrote a check for hundreds of thousands of dollars for those impacted by the fires. Families filled out a grant application, and a day later, checks were in their hands.
I don't know if they truly understand the impact that it has made on our lives. When we got the call to pick up the check, to sustain us and to get us at least to the next day or the next week, maybe even the next month.
What happens beyond that remains to be seen. From churches to drive-ins and more, community leaders are hopeful there will be enough resources long-term for families to rebuild and preserve the diverse, rich history of Altadena. As for Maduro,
It just seems like someone made these and just put them out there so I can be positive.
she's staying optimistic, finding hope where she can.
It just reminds me to stay positive and to believe that better times are ahead.
In Los Angeles County, I'm Michael Yoshida reporting.
Word of knowledge. Which of these Chinese dynasties ruled the most recently? Han, Tang, Song, Ming. These dynasties are in order from the earliest to the most recent, with the Ming dynasty having begun in the 14th century.
On this date in world history, China's Ming Dynasty officially began on January 23, 1368. It's when Zhu Yuanzhang ascended the throne as emperor at age 40. The Ming Dynasty lasted almost 3 centuries and was a relatively stable period, but one with domineering government control. Also in China, on this date in 1556, the deadliest earthquake ever recorded struck the northern Chinese province of Shaanxi. It killed an estimated 830,000 people. In 1849, this was the date when Elizabeth Blackwell became the first woman in the United States to receive a medical degree. She'd overcome considerable opposition on her journey to become a doctor. And the first woman to serve as U.S. Secretary of State was sworn in on January 23rd. That was back in 1997 when Madeleine Albright took the office and served in the role until 2001.
Where in the world? This is a nation that was once controlled by Spain and the U.S. It achieved its independence in 1902 and became communist in 1959. That's when Fidel Castro led the overthrow of the island's previous government. This is Cuba, a Caribbean country 90 miles south of Florida.
Eduardo Viciana has lived in Cuba his entire life, where over the years he's watched inflation soar, currency values plummet, and food and basic necessities become scarce. But despite an economy crumbling under a communist government, Viciana managed to create a bustling glassblowing business. He's honed his skills by watching glassblowers from other countries, where the art is more developed and resources are more readily available.
We observed how they work. We brought it to our work conditions and we adapted it.
He and his team even adapted how they get their glass. Cuba's peso is depreciated to the point where just buying groceries and the most basic necessities is often a struggle. The cost of purchasing raw materials to turn into glass for a new and small business is pretty much out of reach. So Viciana doesn't buy it. He recycles it from established glass-cutting shops.
We recover their waste, we melt it, add some mixes, and we work with that.
Humble beginnings, but Viciana and his small team transform waste into gorgeous works. And now his business is, you might say, red hot.
We've restored the lamps of the Havana Great Theater, the National Capitol, the Cathedral of Matanzas. We have artistic pieces on display in hotels.
Viciana's dream is to one day leave his home island, but not forever. Despite the economic turmoil, he isn't drawn away from his island nation so much to pursue money as to pursue his art and craft, and bring what he learns back home.
I still haven't been able to see the workshops in another country. I would love to do this there, to learn how others work, so I could bring it here and improve.
What day is it?
Today is National Handwriting Day. It's a time to put pen to paper in a letter, a poem, or a journal and express yourself the old school way.
Taking a moment to recognize some of the best viewers in news, we started the Sunshine State where Miss Cox's class is online. The Coyotes or Coyotes of Cypress Creek High School are with us from Wesley Chapel, Florida. The Prairie State of Illinois is home to Kankakee High School, and that's the home of the K's. Mrs. Meantz's class is here from Kankakee. And across the Atlantic, in the nation of Ukraine, we welcome the students and teachers of Lyceum number 8. Great to have you watching from the city of Dubno. Finally, what kind of sounds like a country song. I was just a lonely sunfish. But that's exactly what workers at a Japanese aquarium thought they were dealing with, a sunfish that had gotten lonely because the venues closed to visitors for renovations. Without people there, the animal, which is described as very curious, allegedly lost its appetite. So the staff put up cutouts of people, a lot like what appeared in U.S. sports stadiums during COVID, and they say the sunfish started eating more the very next day. With fake fans in the vicinity, things went swimmingly, changing just a fish story into aquatic history. A mystery a fish would wish to see folks cast a line, not to reel it in, but steal a glimpse of fish at feeding time. It's a fish-eye view, a fishbowl through which we can become caught in the net of fish psychology, a school of ichthyology. I'm Carl Azuz, hooked on tackling puns for the world from A to Z. Can't wait to dive into Friday's show tomorrow.